2023 meeting of the AMAS Technical Advisory Committee to order. It is 2:30 p.m. Aaron, will you do the roll call?
Yes, sir. Craig Lyon,
Present.
Jamie Acton,
Here.
Melinda Kohlhaas,
Here.
Brad Coy,
Here.
Ben White,
Here.
Ms. Duber. Sorry, I don't.
Pete.
Pete.
Yep, here.
Thank you. And you'll be filling in for Brian Lindemoon. Okay. Matt Stitchick. I don't see him online. Steve Rebuffo. I don't see him online either. Luke Boland.
Here.
Yemi Alini
Present.
and Steve Rayfuse. I don't see him online either.
Okay, I guess we'll see how they come. And before we jump into the other thing, we do have a new member of our committee, Mr. White. If you wouldn't mind giving us a quick intro, how you came about to decide to join this.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, Todd Van Hook has retired, and I've taken his position as planning chief in our Anchorage field office, Central Region DOT. So excited to be here. I've spent a bit of time working for the department down in South Coast region and also at headquarters. Spent 3 years as the program development director prior to a little time at DNR, and then I'm back in the department. So looking forward to this.
Well, it's great to have you. Excited to have you get up to speed and have you contribute. Okay, Aaron, would you do the public involvement announcement, please?
Of course, AMAT's committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are first presented by staff or consultant, then the committee is given an opportunity to ask questions. After that, the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic. Couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the committee, please turn the camera off when you're not speaking on an item. If you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you, Aaron. Please let the record show that 2:32, Mr. Richards has joined us. Okay, let's see. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion for approving the agenda?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Acton, second by Mr. Ryan. Do we have any changes? Any objections to approving the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We also have some minutes from our April 13th, 2023 meeting. Do we have a motion? To approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Leamy, seconded by Mr. Boland. Are there any changes to the minutes? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving the minutes? There are no objections. The April 13th, 2023 minutes are approved. And now we move on to our main action items. Action item 5A. The 2023 to 2026 TIP air quality conformity determination. Who's going to be taking that one on there?
It'll be me.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. So as you know, we've been working on TIP amendment number 1 for a number of months now, about 7 months. So we're kind of nearing the end, hopefully. So before you right now is the air quality conformity determination for the TIP amendment number 1. As you know, we are in a limited maintenance area, so we're required to do air quality conformity analysis. And that's what this determination is. Matt Stitchick did the work to put this conformity together. Basically, the conformity looks at the projects or the changes that are in Amendment 1 to see if it would impact our ability to continue moving forward with the STIP measures, the statewide implementation plan measures that we have in our TIP. A lot of acronyms, sorry. And that's like rideshare, marketing, air quality education awareness campaign. So after that review, it is then brought forward through the interagency consultation, which is made up of FHWA, FTA, EPA, DEC, DOT, and they review it to say yay or nay. They give their blessing on it. Once they give their blessing, we then put it out for a 30-day public comment period. So this had a little bit of a hiccup in this one. We originally put the comment period out starting April 3rd of 2023. But on April 10th or so, it was discovered that there was an error in the TIP that had been missed through the approvals of the main TIP itself and the amendment number 1. The Alaska Railroad had some changes that needed to be made. They had sent those changes as part of the 23 through 26 TIP development. And we had missed them. And so we were looking at them and made those changes as part of this process. They all fall within the requirements for our air quality changes. So, and we included it as part of the public comment period, so everyone got to see them. We restarted the comment period to make sure it was a full 30 days with those changes in there. So that's why this one was a little longer than normal. No comments were received on the air quality conformity determination. Just as a reminder, we have to get the air quality conformity determination approved before the TIP amendment, because it's basically saying, yep, we're in conformity, then you can approve the TIP amendment, part of the process requirement. So what's being asked before you is approval or recommendation of approval to the policy committee of the air quality conformity determination. Thank you.
Perfect. This was the driver behind today meeting instead of last week.
Yeah, yes, so that's the reason why we shifted the TAC a week, because we had to extend the comment period on the air quality conformity, and to ensure we're on task. You know, we still have to go through the final FHWA and DOT approval of this, so we still have another month before we get final approval, and that's putting us just a few months before the end of the fiscal year. So we are doing as much as we can to make sure we meet all of our obligation deadlines.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Eric. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Just curious, on figure 1.3, it shows the carbon monoxide monitoring site locations.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if there's somebody here that can explain. Is it just that one point where it shows in the red active site, or is there?
This is Matt Stitchick online. That is correct. There is just the single monitoring site anymore. All the others have been closed out. And that last one is required until, well, indefinitely, or would need to be replaced if that site goes away.
Is that on a local road? It says Garden. Does that mean Garden Street, or where is that? What is
Yes,
Garden?
the monitor is located on the Trinity Christian Reformed Church at 3000 East 16th. But it intersects with Garden Street, so we call it the Garden Site.
Since I'm not familiar, I thought I would ask a little bit. I did see it. It was identified.
Work yourself out of a
Was
job.
Was there previously more locations and
Yes,
to
there
capture
at one
around
time.
town? I mean, is there something that you can give me in a sentence or two, like the history of why is it only down to one point? Just out of curiosity, really.
Because we found that the highest reporting sites were actually in neighborhoods where cold starts occurred. And that was the source of the carbon monoxide, was cold vehicle starts. So Garden Site happened to be one of our historical highest reading sites. And other sites such as major intersections were closed out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have Matt on. He hadn't been here for the roll call.
Yeah, sorry, I
so
missed roll call.
That's all right. So I know that you were on by at least 2:37 and we were having discussion. Is that sufficient or?
Yeah.
Okay, let the record show Matt Stitchick joined at 2:37.
Works for me.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any other committee questions or comments? How about any questions or comments from the public? Or comments, I should say, comments from the public. Looks like I don't see any online. I'm in the room. What is the will of the committee?
Move to recommend the air quality control examination for approval to policy committee.
Okay, moved by Mr. Leamy,
Second.
second by Mr. Lyon. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing no objections, the motion is approved. And the non-conformity determination is recommended to approve for approval to the policy committee. Let's move on then to item 5B, the 2023-2026 TIP amendment number 1. So that's you again, Aaron?
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
So most of you have seen tip amendment number 1 a couple of times now because we've been spending quite a while on it. So I didn't really want to go through everything. But as you notice in the memo, I did add in the changes that were made as part of the railroad error that we found, just so everyone is aware of what's happening. And again, this is railroad funding, 5337 funding that they have, and it's for the rehab or preventative maintenance of their system. So it kind of all falls in line of the, in general, exempt projects for this. And one of the big reasons we pushed to make sure this happened is our downtown trail connection project is dependent upon the railroad moving forward with their bridge work in that area. So if that gets delayed, then our project gets delayed and becomes kind of a cascading effect for us. Other than the changes you see on the memo, no changes have been made since the policy committee approved the draft to be used as part of the air quality conformity determination. So what's being asked today is recommend approval to the policy committee of TIP amendment number 1 with the changes on the memo. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
So the memo that will go to the policy committee for the TIP amendment, it'll have all the changes? Just this one.
Just this one on here, just so they know the changes were made, because they're gonna be able to see all the changes in the actual. Because the problem is when I was looking at this, I didn't want people to think we had made a bunch of other changes
Right.
since they had last seen the draft document. So I figured just these changes, this is what's changed since they last saw it.
Okay, thank you.
So when it had come through before, there was a memo that explained everything else.
Yeah, we can attach that as an attachment, just say, see the memo that explained all the other changes that have been made at some point in case anyone has any questions. I just trying to help with the public following the process a little easier. It's complicated.
Yeah. I'm wondering if at the policy committee, if we have any new representatives there with that, something change over. Right, are you aware?
Kevin Cross is the only new one, because Meg Zolotel looks like she'll be taking some time off. So I can reach out to him and just make sure, see if he has any questions on it. Mr. Kent has been involved for a while now, so he knows kind of what's going on, but I can also reach out to him and just see if he has any questions. The others are all the same as before.
Good. Yeah, it might be helpful to, oh, and Wolfgang. Oh, well, this is Wolfgang.
This is his last meeting.
Okay. Yeah, some changes happening. Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee?
I guess just to follow on, or is there gonna be something that collates all the amendments into one document, so it's all combined?
That's pretty much the tip tables themselves. So when we send it forward to DOT headquarters for incorporation to the STIP and approval by FHW, the air quality conformity for approval by FHWA, we just basically, I'll provide the memos that have been provided to the committees, as well as the tip tables, as well as the air quality conformity. So they kind of have the holistic view of everything that's happened. That's going on.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? from the committee? One question I did have was the Seward Highway for Flats to Rabbit Creek project. Had that been in previously? That one's in red and I.
So yeah, that had been, it was in previously as the Seward Highway 98.5 to 118 reconstruction, but with TIP or a STIP amendment number 5. Once it was approved, we did a wholesale update of all the projects in the TIP as part of amendment number 1 for the TIP. To reflect what the current description and funding layout is as far as they had. As you may know, the STIP only goes to 2023. So 2024 and beyond is based on estimates given to us by DOT.
Other questions or comments from the public? Or from the committee, I should say. Hearing none, any questions or comments from the public? I guess it should be comments. Public. Okay, hearing and seeing no comments, nothing online, nothing in the room. What is the will of the committee?
I move to recommend, moving forward, the TIP amendment 23 to 26 to the policy committee.
Okay, second. Moved by Ms. Paul, second by Mr. Levy. Do we have any objections to the motion? There are no objections, the motion is approved. To recommend for approval the TIP amendment 1 for the policy committee. Those are our 2 action items. So now we have a number of project and plan updates. Looks like the first one on the list is 6A, Northern Lights Boulevard Sidewalk Project Update. I see David Dallas standing up.
Yep, this will be up by the project team. Just as a quick reminder about this project before you get going, this was a pavement project in the AMATS TIP that ended up, the cost exceeded what we traditionally have in the pavement program. So this one was pulled out as a separate individual project in the TIP payments. Thank you, David.
It'll probably be good for us. Over to the side so we can see behind us.
Well, thanks for having us here today to give you a quick project update on the AMATS Northern Lights Boulevard Sidewalk Repairs Project. I'm Dave Gamez with Lounsbury and Associates. We're the consultant on the project. And our project manager with DOT is Christina Huber and project engineer is Travis Holmes. So the project spans from Minnesota Drive to Seward Highway and is essentially a sidewalk repair project on both sides of the road. The purpose of this project is to improve the accessibility and safety for the sidewalk for all users to the local businesses, residences, and transit stops that are along Northern Lights Boulevard. Existing conditions, the existing facility was constructed in the 1970s with 4 to 5 foot concrete sidewalk, a lot of which is still out there today. There are spot segments where some has been replaced as developments have come in and done different improvements along it. It's a class 3 principal arterial and serves as the westbound leg of the Benson Northern Lights couplet. There's several retail shops, restaurants, and local businesses that are along the route. And we've got 10 transit stops for people moving Route 10. And the facility experiences anywhere between 13,000 and 19,000 vehicles per day on average throughout the year. So early on in this project, we were trying to figure out and identify what the deficiencies were with the non-motorized facilities out there. We identified much of the sidewalk is either damaged or not ADA compliant to current standards, along with the driveways as well. But there's also a very high degree of access for an arterial, which we counted 94 driveways accessing 77 properties out there. And then along with that, there's utilities such as fire hydrants, light poles, and overhead electric poles that are in the sidewalk, narrowing it down to less than the ADA minimum standard. So the proposed improvements with the project, we're proposing to reconstruct all the damaged and non-ADA compliant sidewalks to bring them up to current standards. Anywhere where we have the right of way width available, we're going to widen the sidewalk to 6 feet. And then we're going to provide ADA compliant bus stop pads where the right of way width allows. For the driveways, we're going to reconstruct all of the non-ADA compliant driveways and bring them up to the current standards. And then we're also, and I'll talk about this on the next few slides, we're going to remove a select number of driveways along Northern Lights and replace it with sidewalk. And then also with the utilities, we're going to relocate the fire hydrants and light poles to make the sidewalk ADA compliant. And we have those overhead electric poles that we could not move. We're going to construct sidewalk behind the poles to allow for that ADA compliant width. So the next item here, we realized that the driveways were gonna be a challenge, a potential challenge with this project. Because the property owners may not have the same vision with the driveways as the project does. So what we did was we started out with agency coordination. We met and talked with the different functional groups within the DOT to come to consensus on what the priorities were for managing the driveway access out on Northern Lights. And so out of that meeting, we discussed the different criteria and where the driveways were placed within each individual property, and with the current design standards where it made sense to put certain driveways back. But we came out of that meeting agreeing that we needed to come up with a memo to memorialize what we decided to do with Northern Lights, so that we could then go and discuss with property owners. So we defined existing conditions and the purpose for managing the driveway access out there. We outlined all of the design criteria that we had available to make those decisions on whether or not to keep a certain driveway or to remove or consolidate certain driveways. And we defined our success basically with this particular project as being able to meet with property owners and come up with an amicable solution between the project team and the property owners to make those decisions. So over the last 8 months, really over fall and winter, we met with all of the affected property owners to discuss our potential solutions to these driveways individually. And we came up with amicable solutions with almost every property owner that was affected here. And I want to credit James Sauerwine for this right of way at DOT. Our final decisions are a balance between the design criteria and the property owner site plans. So, we came to consensus and we got agreement, and we're moving forward with, so this is the existing condition. We've got 94 driveways accessing 77 properties. And in that process, we're gonna come down to 67 driveways that are gonna remain. Most of those blue dots will be replaced with current ADA, compliant and current standard compliant driveways. Some of them are already ADA compliant, so there's some that won't change. So that's basically our work over the since you last heard from us on this project has been a lot of driveway coordination here. We have earlier this year, we reached the 95% or PS&E review design level. We are currently in the right-of-way process, basically negotiating our temporary construction permits and easements with the property owners. As you can imagine, with 77 different properties, that's a pretty lengthy list to get through. So we're targeting to get through that process in the next 18 to 24 months. And our anticipated construction is now looking like 2025 or after. So that's our project update. This is the project team and our contact information. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you go back to the slide with all the driveway, all the dots?
Sure.
So it says Northern Lights Boulevard, but those are on Benson as well. So you're doing some on Benson?
No, there's none of those are on Benson. It's just, we had to bring the map up. Yeah, that's all Northern Lights.
Those are 4 rows.
It's 4 different rows of segments of Northern Lights. So so you can see it a little better.
On top.
Yeah.
Got it.
So Minnesota on the west, River Highway on the east.
Okay.
There you go.
It was 97 down to 67.
Yes.
Can you toggle to the 97 so you can see kind
Sure.
of?
Camera 2.
Yeah. That's a lot of traffic going away. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Look at how many are just that one.
Yeah.
Is there any talk about the number of lanes, or is that something on the table, off the table, removing lanes, or?
On this particular project, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this one specifically, the sidewalk repairs.
Got it.
That'll be looked at as part of the Northern Lights corridor study, Northern Lights Benson, about lane stuff.
Got it. Thank you.
You had a slide that said the bus stops would be brought up to ADA compliant where right of way permits.
Right.
How does that work if right of way doesn't permit?
So there are particular locations where we have utilities that are moving to spots where we can place a driveway. Or sorry, a bus stop pad, so we are in those locations able to place those bus stop pads. There are other locations that are separate from that, and I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it was a few. Where we couldn't, where the right of way didn't allow for the expansion of the sidewalk. Or just expansion to place that ADA plant at.
I'm not a construction project manager, but my understanding is with federal funds, you can't construct a non-ADA compliant bus pad.
So, the existing bus stop locations, they are not in that, they're not ADA compliant.
Right, yeah.
And so,
So they're all grandfathered, but once you touch them with federal money,
yes,
they have to become ADA compliant.
thank you for that.
Maybe we can have a meeting,
Yeah, let's discuss after.
because if we need to shift it one way or another, we can try to do that.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that you're looking at a 6-foot minimum sidewalk width where you can achieve that. It's really cool. I mean, something that MOA is looking at. We're gonna be kicking off a right-of-way study and looking at all of the options that make it better for maintenance throughout the year. And something that we're thinking about is just merely by adding another foot to the sidewalk, it just give you that much better opportunity for winter maintenance, get the, the sidewalk scale, snow blower up there and be able to maintain it better, things like that. So that was pretty cool to hear. I guess my other question is, when you're gonna deviate and then go around the utility, maybe to the outside of it, are you looking at kind of smooth transitions?
Yes.
Not like squared off,
Right.
transitions?
Yeah, we do. We have angled transitions out behind those utilities. Yeah.
Again, think of maintaining it for a snow plow or whatever, vehicle that might be.
Definitely.
That maneuver. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're looking good. Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate your presentation.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. If you have a clear presentation, I'm just grabbing my notes real quick. Next one is the quarter 2 2023 obligation report. Is that gonna be presentation?
Yeah, it's really quick, but you can probably fit wherever, because we'll do the quarterly and then we'll do transit. You can stay where you're at because there's really not too much going on, so. Okay, everyone, so we have the quarterly obligation report. So this is the second quarter, 2023. So this is basically us just reporting on how we're doing at getting the tip obligated each year. So making the funds available to expend against. As you can see, we're doing okay. Just remember, this is second quarter of federal fiscal year. So this would have been January, February, or March of this year. So it's not the current up to date because we're still in quarter 3. So you'll see a quarter 3 op report and then a quarter 4. For quarter 3, we are required to be plus or minus 10% of our allocation. Scroll down to the very bottom. You'll see that we are at negative 1.01%. That means we're a little under by 329 or 392,000. Can you scroll down a little more to the very, very bottom? So one thing I do want to note for you, because I'm sure somebody will ask, at the very bottom, you'll see a thing that says unobligated STBG funds available to AMATs. So basically what happens is at the end of every year, any funds we have that we're not obligated are carried from year to year for possible use by us or the state. So James has been working with DOT headquarters and us to kind of lump all of those unobligated funds into one big sum and make them available to us. So if you remember back in the tip, we showed about 14 million of our DOBs, as we call it, to be used for the Spenard Road project. That's from Benson to Northern Lights, or Benson to Minnesota. We're gonna be using all of our DOBs to help fund that project. So just kind of keeping everyone in the loop on that, and everything else is moving forward rapidly. You will also notice this is not updated to reflect tip amendment number 1, as that has not been approved yet. So we're just using the 23 through 26 tip as approved. So I can help answer any questions, or James is also here if you have any questions I can answer. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Hey. Thank you, Aaron, for that. We can move then to the next item on the agenda, which is our third project and plan update, C6C, quarterly project update. Who's gonna be managing that one?
I'll do a quick thing on that once it pops up. Okay, so this is actually from Mr. Starzik, but I'll start talking about it and then you can fill in. So James came up with the idea that with the quarterly obligation reports, we should probably be doing a quarterly update on the actual projects that AMAS is funding. So in this list is all of the projects that AMAS has funding for. As you can see, there's about 7 pages of projects. So this is rehab projects or any other projects that we're working on. And it's very well done. I really appreciate James putting this together and getting this information to you. There's no action on this. It's here for you guys in case you have any questions, just to give you an update on where the project's at. Because we have so many, it's hard to get the project managers here at every single meeting to give an update on all of these. So James figured this would help with providing this information to you at the technical advisory committee, to the public as they want to see it, and to the policy committee when we bring it to them next month. So we're here to help answer any questions. Of course, if you don't have any questions today, feel free to reach out to me at any point and we can answer your questions then. Thank you. And just so you know, all of these were provided by project managers. It was all vetted through project managers, so this information is okay to share.
This is great information. This is really good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It is nice to have
Yeah.
kind of a new thought, so thanks so much for thinking about this.
I actually was thinking maybe we should do like a design status report like DOT does.
Been there 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, I know. But then I realized, oh, that's too much work. This is fine.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments?
Also say thank you for doing it, because I meet with Gary Jones and we all meet quarterly with project managers and review status, and then often I'm calling ahead of that meeting to Julia and Alex Reed, et cetera, and say, hey, status, and so that I can report it back to our group. So this is another good tool. Thanks.
The next item that we have then. Does anybody online have questions? Okay. The item 6D, transit rideshare update. I see Bart making his way to the computers, I'm assuming it's probably.
Yes, it'll be a transit. I'm very excited for this. I'm looking forward to this, I think.
Thanks, Aaron.
He's your hype man.
No pressure.
I do have a giveaway,
Oh my.
a little emergency road kit as we come to the middle of the presentation. So stay awake. The question has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, though. My name is Bart. I am the Planning and Communications Manager for the Public Transportation Department. My division does planning, scheduling, communications, marketing, and rideshare. But the real person that really manages the rideshare program is Stephen Workrow, who's not here today. So I just get to talk about it, but Stephen does all the work. But it is kind of like the unsung hero of the transit department. It is, as it's mentioned here, a sustainable and impactful transportation option. And just to get you thinking about winter again, because it's never too soon. Congestion on the Glen Highway, because that's what this program mainly impacts. So what is van pooling and how does it work? It's anywhere between 4 and 15 people can fit in a van pool. It used to be that you had to have a minimum of 10 or 13, but now we can right size it. They all meet at a central location, or the driver will go and pick up everybody on their van pool. Each van pool arranges this on their own. The vehicle is used to commute to and from work, so it's on a regular routine schedule. It's called Rideshare, which is a little confusing. People get it confused with Uber and Lyfts, which are just like one-off transportation. This is a set schedule of people going to and from the same place at a consistent schedule. And they share the driving responsibility, so it's up to the carpool themselves to determine who will drive, and then they can work out how much each person pays. Sometimes they'll let the driver pay less and everybody else will pay more because they have more responsibility. It's all up to the individual carpool. So there are some incentives to being in a van pool. First of all, we provide a $350 monthly subsidy to each van pool to help offset the cost. And that's why I'm here at AMATS, because this is funded through the TIP. So this $350 subsidy comes from CMAQ money in the TIP. It is a SIP mandated measure that help improve air quality, but so that's what we use it for. We also give them a free bus pass. So if they are in a carpool and they're in town and they need to get to a meeting, or they need to go to lunch, or they need to do something and they don't have a car there, they've been dropped off, they have a bus pass to get around town. There is also a guaranteed ride home program. So again, if they get dropped off and maybe their kid is sick at school, or they need to emergency ride home, or something happens, they get a few of these a year where they will just call them a taxi or an Uber and we'll take them back home and they don't get stranded to where they are. And they get a new SUV and they can use 200 personal use miles every month. So they get this car. If you are the driver of the carpool, you get to keep the car all year round, and you get to use it for 200 personal miles a month to run to like Costco, Walmart. So if you are a 2-car household and one of you wants to carpool, you can get rid of one of your cars if you're the driver here. So it's a cool, pretty cool program.
Is the subsidy for gas?
No, gas, they pay separate. Gas is paid amongst all the carpool people. It's above and beyond what they pay to be part of the program. So when we started, we are partnering with Enterprise Commute. So Enterprise is the one that actually does the carpooling. That's why they get new cars all the time. We started off in 2017 with 67. We were growing, and then COVID, we went down to 67, which is still impressive during the pandemic that we had 67 carpools, although some of those were parked for a few times. We just let them suspend it. So not all of those were actually in use. And then today we're up to 93. So it's a program that has been growing pretty successfully over the last year and a half. So there's 545 people signed up in the program. So that's 545 single occupancy vehicles if they were to drive alone. And that is 545 cars on the screen. So they are all now in 93 van pools. So we've taken those 545 cars and we put them into 93. So most of the van pools go from the Valley to J-Bear. So this is mostly cars taken off the Glen Highway. If you look at the top van pool programs in the country, it's kind of hard to see. We are number 27 ranked. You know, big cities behind us, Minneapolis, Omaha, Nashville, all have fewer things. So we are doing pretty well where it stands to the van pool program, kind of solidly right in the middle of the top 50. So last year we took 4.9 million pounds of CO2 was reduced.
We have an extra subsidy.
7.
Because it was that important that I wanted everyone to know just how much it was.
7.
7.
Is this that new math?
Yeah, it is. Well, this is gonna be scary because I get into some math here. We'll see. Mainly when I was putting this together, because I don't deal with this every day, and Matt probably knows this like the back of his hand, but what is 4.9 million pounds of CO2, right? Like what does that even mean? So a ton of CO2 would fill a modest ranch home. So we've taken 2,500 ranch homes full of CO2 out of the environment. It would take, if you planted a tree today, for the next 10 years, 375,000 trees to sequester that amount of carbon that's put into the atmosphere.
Be nice.
You guys are cool.
I know, another.
Hey, this is how you win the prize.
This is good.
Noticing it.
This is good.
To the zero.
Yeah. It's a good, this is the dry run before the policy committee. And then another zero missing, 52,000 barrels of oil consumed off of there. Okay, and then so 6.2 million vehicle miles saved. So that's vehicle miles that would be commuting to and from work that weren't because of the van pool program. So that's 50 trips to the moon.
Wow.
It could be 500.
You can make
So,
anything up.
I know, it is true. So this is my question for the giveaway. How many trips around the earth is that equivalent to? Does anybody want to take a guess?
175.
6.2 million
I was.
miles.
Okay. With your map, I can throw any number in.
But it has to match the number that's up there. Anybody take a guess?
12.
Way higher, we're in the hundreds.
No.
I said.
I said 175.
120.
Higher than 175,
500.
less than 500. One more guy.
375.
No, it's 240 trips around the earth. Taken
Doubled my number and added one of your zeros.
next time. And so that also means it's 23,000 round trips. No, I'm wondering what's going on with all those zeros.
Maybe it's probably
I know, I'm gonna blame PowerPoint
Yeah.
on this, because that's very
I wonder if
strange.
we've got text boxes that.
That it disappeared, went to the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Anyway,
poor Chris.
23,000 round trips to Seward and back. Okay, so we talked about what it means for like the environment of Anchorage, but 93 van pools. How we count that, that's 8.6 million annual passenger miles that are traveled within those van pools. So we get to count that towards our reporting to the federal government. And that comes back to us at about $1.6 million in federal funds, in 5307 funds that we get to use for people mover. We use it for like preventative maintenance or bus buys or bus stop improvements, things like that. So what you fund in the tip helps people mover, it helps the environment through rideshare, and then it helps people mover get additional federal funds.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there a limit on the number of van pools or these things that you could have? Is there?
There's no limit other than the funding. So the CMAQ money that's in the tip, we have to have enough CMAQ money to pay the monthly subsidy for each van pool.
So with the subsidy that you get right now, could you have?
We can add,
25.
yeah, we can add a lot of van pools, because what we did with the tip is we combined it with the transit marketing program. So it's flexible. So if we grow van pools, the marketing program shrinks.
Got it.
And if the van pools shrink, the marketing program grows. So yeah, we can infinitely improve this.
Thanks.
So for future growth opportunities for rideshare, J-Bear is obviously our biggest one. That's where most of the van pool goes, from the valley to J-Bear, mainly because there's not transit service there either. It's just a difficult part to serve. So an overwhelming vast majority of all those 93 van pools go to J-Bear. Eagle River is an area of opportunity for us, just because van pool is a way to help go where places where transit doesn't, if you have no other alternatives, and we do not have the best transit service in Eagle River. So we're looking to grow out there. Girdwood, Alyeska Resort is another big one. We do have a few van pools that go out there. There's a housing shortage in Girdwood, as we all know. Alyeska is actually paying individual employees hundreds of dollars a month that drive to and from Anchorage to help offset their costs. So we think there's a big opportunity to get those people into carpools, and even Alyeska fund the whole thing, and it would be cheaper than paying each individual person. So that would help, obviously, the Seward Highway take some vehicles off of there. And then the UMED area, which aligns with an AMATS project destination UMED, on finding alternative ways to get single occupancy vehicles reduced there, trying to get the big employers to encourage their employees to get into a carpool, and help reduce that. So that is all I have. No more math. Questions?
I do want to point out that, AMATs and the committees all agreed to fund or put additional funding towards the rideshare and transit marketing. So I'm excited, from my perspective, I'm really excited to see how that can help in the long run. Because to me, this is a direct thing that we can show to like FHWA, the public, everyone, how we as AMATs are helping the system overall. One thing, is there a way for us to calculate kind of cost savings to the drivers? Because, we hear from the public all the time about the transportation and like housing costs or transportation costs for people. Is there a way for us to calculate how much people are saving yearly on this kind of, by doing this?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
Enterprise has a calculator.
Yeah.
Cool. Because that would be good for us to be able to show that.
Yeah.
Maybe in like a performance measure or something that we have later down the line. So, thank you.
And with the additional money from AMATs, we can either have more van pools or we can increase the subsidy from $350 to more to help further reduce the cost to each individual driver. So we have flexibility on how we best think could grow the program.
It's cool. Thank you.
I think with that same idea, knowing how much the drivers save, seeing kind of the breakdown of the subsidy, what maybe the driver versus the non-driver, just so that someone doesn't have to try to do the math.
Yeah. I'll just get Steven to do it.
So you mentioned possibilities of Eagle River and Girdwood. What kind of things are you doing to try to reach out to them?
So we are at the end of our contract with Enterprise right now. So we just had an RFP closed, but part of that RFP, the new contract provider, if it's continues to be Enterprise or someone else, we'll have to specifically do marketing and outreach and go out to those communities more often and the employers. Right now, it's kind of like, if they want to do that, they can.
Be fun to grow that down there.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Barb. Really appreciate it.
Who won?
Nobody won, nobody guessed it.
I think Aaron got.
Well, who came closest?
I think
Without
Yemi-
going over.
I think Yemi got closer than I did, so.
Okay.
You're running to not give anybody that.
Maybe.
I think.
Wait a minute, you already
As an
know.
AMAT teacher,
I don't forget that.
I think as an
Plus,
AMAT
it's math.
Yeah,
teacher,
Yeah.
maybe one.
Yeah.
I think I know, girl.
You know,
So thank you for how fun that presentation was, but. Yeah. Both with the prize and with the math.
Keep you on your toes.
We're also.
I gotta keep answering.
Transit math.
There's only two types of lies, right? Lies and statistics. Yeah.
That's all right. That's me.
Okay, so next on our agenda is general information. Do we have any general information items?
I did just want to mention Monday, the 22nd of May. So this coming Monday is the AMAT Safety Forum, 6 to 8 p.m. We've been promoting it, so please just let people know about it. It's our first time ever doing the safety forum. We hope it becomes kind of a reoccurring thing, similar to our winter maintenance forum. And we have a lot of really good stuff lined up, including statistics from our safety survey that just closed. So if you'd like to see those stats, I strongly recommend you come to the safety forum. We can also provide them at another date, but I love the input we received. I love the public input software that we're using. It made it so much easier for us, for staff, to compile all that information and gather and see kind of what people are thinking. So look forward to that.
Anything that's virtual, correct?
Yes, virtual only. And then the second thing I just want to remind everyone about, because it's on my mind all the time, next week, the 24th and the 25th is the AMAT certification review. So all day, the 24th, staff will be meeting with FHWA, FTA, and DOT to review all their cert questions and go through everything. And then on the 25th, there'll be an action item on the policy committee to provide an opportunity for members of the public to weigh in on the transportation planning process. And then FHW FTA will sit and have question and answer time or discussion time with the policy committee members. So I encourage you to attend that meeting if you're interested to see how it goes. And then we'll get our preliminary review from FHW FTA, and then they'll send the final stuff at a later date. So it's a big week for us next week.
Okay,
Thank you.
Item 8, committee comments. Would any members of the committee like to share any comments with the group?
Give you an update on STIP Amendment 6.
Sure, that'd be great.
So STIP Amendment 6 is still sitting down in the commissioner's office for final review and approval. And that will go to federal highways for their approval. And then our new STIP, as Aaron mentioned, we're working on a new STIP. We're anticipating right now at some point in June to have head out for public review. So that's tentative. We're still trying to get that all worked out and sorted, but that's the plan.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Other committee comments? Go ahead, Steve.
Our multi-use trails in town should be done and swept, so there should be nice, good conditions out there. And then tomorrow is bike to work day. All right, so just put that plug in there.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Steve. Any other? Go ahead, Aaron.
Sorry, one last reminder. Wolfgang Young is retiring and his last meeting will be next week for the policy committee. So just put it out there if you'd like to say goodbye. He'll be leaving here very shortly.
Thank you, Aaron. Other committee comments? Two that I was going to mention was one's bike to work day. So that is always a fun one that I enjoy, seeing how many stations I can hit. And then the other is that we've been making progress on the pilot protected bike and demonstration project. So that's been exciting, kind of figuring out some details, and it's looking more like next summer is when the majority of that pilot will happen. Potentially something this summer, but more focused on next summer. So any other committee comments? Okay, seeing none, do we have any public comments? Okay, I don't see any online either. So with that, we are adjourned, 3:22 p.m.